I'm Rob Skinner, and this is the Rob Skinner Podcast. It takes guts to step out on faith, and it takes guts to make a risky, late career move for Christ. Rusty and Kim Snell left a successful and comfortable career path in product design in their late 50s and stepped in as the leaders of the Toledo, Ohio church. In this episode, you'll find out what inspired them to do it, how Christ can multiply whatever talents or gifts you offer him, why they find themselves happiest experiencing Christ's victories and suffering, and their plans to build a healthy spiritual garden. All this and more on the Rob Skinner Podcast. Welcome back to the Rob Skinner Podcast. My goal is to inspire you to live a no-regrets life, to make this life count, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Today on my program, I've got Rusty and Kim Snell from Toledo, Ohio. I'm really looking forward to talking to them. I saw them and met them first at the Climb Conference in Dallas in December and talked to them briefly. They had a full-time career prior to going into the paid ministry, but made a decision in 2021, right during the height of COVID, to go into the paid ministry, leave their secular position, and serve the church in Toledo, Ohio. I look forward to asking them and finding out what and why they made that huge decision, and I hope it inspires others to do the same. Rusty and Kim, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, Rob. Excited about this.
Yeah. If you guys wouldn't mind sharing, how did you guys become Christians?
You want me to start?
Sure.
Okay. So first of all, this is my favorite part of your podcast is how'd you become a Christian? Because I love that it reminds me that Jesus is alive and well today. And it reminds me that anyone can make it, no matter the background, because a lot of the people you're interviewing are all over the map. Some are religious, some are heathens like me, and everybody in between. And I just love listening to how people become Christians so much. But for us, I think it started with a phone call. I was minding my own business at work. Of all places, I was a designer, 1990 for Sony Corporation, a Japanese electronics empire. And I had a great job designing products, and I'm just minding my own business, doing my thing, and I get a phone call. Now, back then, it was long distance. So this guy I'm in New Jersey, Park Ridge, New Jersey, living in Ridgewood, New Jersey, but work Park Ridge, which is only 10 minutes away. And I get a long distance call from my friend in Cincinnati, John Price, who was a childhood friend. He was my best friend all the way up through school. We went to kindergarten together all the way. He went to college at a different place. He went to Baldwin Wallace. I went to Arizona State. But we stayed in touch, and we were just friends, usually just once a year, twice a year kind of thing. But he was my pot smoking buddy. He was my beer drinking buddy. Like, we chased girls together. We played sports together. And this guy called me, John, at work. You know, I'm in a Japanese culture. Like, this is pretty intense stuff. So I'm sitting around designing, and he calls me and says, "Hey, I have a Bible talk that you need to go to." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" He's like, "No, I know it sounds crazy, but I've already got the phone number. I've already got the place. The people that lead a church out there. It's a little church, Debbie and Sheridan Wright. All you got to do is call them on a phone. I can give you the phone number right now, and just study the Bible." And I'm like, "Is this the same John? Like, what is happening? What is going on? Like, why are you calling me?" And anyway, I think just because I trusted him and we had such a great relationship, as bizarre as it seemed for him to call me long distance at work, when he could have called me at home, it just, everything seemed weird about it. But I'm like, okay, it's John. So yeah, I called the people up and said, hey, my friend recommended that I call you and we get together and study the Bible. So that's why I'm calling you. And they're like, yeah, oh, great. Why don't you come over and we'll have some cookies and punch and do a Bible study. I'm like, cookies and punch? Are you crazy? I'm hoping they're going to say, some tequila shots and we'll do a little Bible study, but we'll have a couple beers and we'll talk about God. And they're talking about cookies and punch. And I don't know, just something about them. We just kept making excuses. I'm like, Kim, these guys want to have a Bible talk and I don't know. And so we said, hey, we got to sort our socks on Thursday. Sorry, we can't make it. We came up with the dumbest excuses. Like, we just can't do it. But I think what really changed it, you want to talk a little bit?
Yeah. So at the time, Rusty and I had only been married for a year. So when we got this phone call, Rusty got the phone call from John, and he introduced us to this couple in the church. Like Rusty said, I mean, we had absolutely zero interest in coming over to a stranger's house for cookies and coffee and a Bible study. So they tried multiple times to get us to come to a Bible study, and we just, like Rusty said, had excuse after excuse. And so they finally figured out this approach is not working, like, at all. So they introduced us to another couple, and they invited us out to play tennis. And we're like, oh my gosh, of course we'll come and play tennis, because we loved playing tennis. And when we met them, their names are Mitch and Michelle Kahn. They exactly the same age as Rusty and I. They were actually married the same day, same year that we were married. And we just hit it off. And I think that relationship just really went a long way to, helping us to just feel comfortable, just coming out to church, and just connecting with them
at that point. Yeah, they found what it was for a connection. I mean, we definitely weren't religious people or spiritual at all, but we definitely loved tennis, and so that was a connection for us. And I think once we started developing that relationship, then we actually were more open to studying the Bible. And we got into the Bible, and I just was blown away. I had never, ever met anybody that understood the Bible and could teach it in a way that I understood it. I grew up Catholic, and the Bible was rarely talked about, even at church, let alone at home. So not only did these people talk about the Bible and read it in a way I could understand it, but they actually were living it. I had never seen anybody live it. I think these two guys, Sheridan Wright and Mitch Kahn, were the first men that I'd ever really watched live and go, oh, that's what it's like to live a godly, like a man should live a godly life. I had never seen it before.
Wow.
So it definitely had our attention, and I was just all in. Like, I was just like, I was broken. Our marriage, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but our marriage was messed up, and I felt very responsible. I felt super broken about the way that I let our marriage in just 1 year get to. But I just went through the studies like oxygen, like, oh my gosh, this stuff is incredible. Like, and then Kim, on the other hand, just she's a different personality, and she just responded differently.
Yeah. So I think, if you get to know Rusty and I, Rusty's definitely, he's all in everything all the time. Like, he's emotional. He just leads with his heart. And me, on the other hand, I'm just a little more cautious and analytical. Like, I really like to take my time to kind of figure out, like, what is this all about? Is this crazy, or is this from God? And I think our whole, dynamic was just so I don't know, like Rusty said, our marriage was just really, really bad. After 1 year, I mean, we were heading towards divorce. So it just took me, Rusty jumped right in, he got baptized. And it took me a little bit longer to kind of just make that decision to follow Jesus and to trust that, this is, definitely God leading me and just giving my whole heart to wanting to know Jesus and to following him. So he got baptized. I got baptized 2 weeks later.
So it wasn't that much longer, just a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Okay.
just a couple weeks.
So let's just back it up a little bit. So how old are you guys?
I am 59.
And I am 56.
Okay. So, Kim, you and I are we're the same age. So you guys met, can you talk about how you guys got together and how you met, and then talk about what happened, leading up to studying the Bible? What was going on in your marriage?
So we actually met at Arizona State University. It was a summer before my junior year of college that I had a new roommate that summer, and her name was Kelly. And all summer long, Kelly just kept telling me, Kim, oh my gosh, you have to meet my friend Rusty. And all the time, you have to meet my friend Rusty. She was actually dating a classmate of Rusty's at the time in the design school. Rusty happened to be in Portland, Oregon for the summer doing an internship. So all summer long, it was just constantly, Kim, you have to meet my friend Rusty. So when fall semester came around, Rusty actually camped out to buy football tickets for me and my roommate. And the first time that I met him, we had gone over to his apartment complex, which is just down the street from where I lived, to do a load of laundry. And he was sitting in the house with his roommate and some friends. And you can kind of...
Yeah. So, yeah, the old load of laundry excuse. We, all the guys sitting there. So I'm sitting there with my roommate and then two other friends. There were four of us. I think we were playing cards or something. And Kim and her roommate walked in, and that was the first when I met her, and we just, everybody talked for a while. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like she's got such a gentle, and we weren't disciples.
Right.
So, I'm not looking through the lens of a disciple, but I just thought, first of all, she's gorgeous and she's really intelligent, but she's got such a quiet, gentle spirit that I just never had really seen before. And I didn't know her that well. So of course, all the guys are like, after they left, they're like, oh, I'm going to take her out. And I'm just like, you guys just need to shut up, because this is going to be my girlfriend. Like this girl. And I was right. I beat him. I think I was the first to ask her. So she said yes. And we dated. And I think from that time that we started dating, we only dated 7 months, and I needed to make a decision because I was graduating. I was a year ahead of her in school. And so after 7 months, I realized that, I'm probably going to get a job somewhere outside Tempe, Arizona. And either I'm going to take her with me and we're going to do this together, or we're probably going to part ways, because she has another year of school. She's going to meet more people, more guys, way more handsome and talented than I am. So I better do this. So I proposed to her and she said yes. And that's how we met.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we actually, after he graduated, I finished up school for a year. So we were apart a year before we ended up getting married.
Okay. So, all right. So you guys got married in 89.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what happened? You alluded to it earlier. What was going on in your marriage in the first year or so?
Do you want me to go first? Yeah. Okay. I'll just talk kind of about my, I think that the big thing was, so I had my job, a really great job. So I was so fortunate, blessed by God. I didn't realize I was blessed by God. I just thought I was so awesome that I won this design contest at school. So it was a national contest put on by Sony and open to any college student. I was majoring in industrial design, and there were, I guess, 300 and some applicants who submitted their design for this. It was a portable television contest nationwide, and I got first place. So
Wow.
I got a trip to Japan. I got $5,000.
Wow.
And a TV, and then I got hired by Sony. So I hit the jackpot. Like, I was really, really fortunate. Looking back, I know that it was just flat out blessed by God. And so I moved to Ridgewood, New Jersey, and Kim finished up school in Tempe. So it was a long distance relationship. We only saw each other a couple times. Neither of us had any money for us to fly back and forth in that last year as she was finishing school. But I was working for a Japanese company that required a lot of you. So I show up at work at about 8 to 9 a.m. and work till about 10 p.m. And then it was required that you went out and got trashed with your coworkers.
Right.
Like, it wasn't an option. They
Right.
never really asked if you wanted to. It was just part of the unifying, like, you were family. And
Right.
they even said when I was interviewing, like, this, you are married to Sony. This is your wife. And I'm like, oh, that's funny. You know, that's a good analogy. I like that. But no, they weren't kidding. Like, you were really married. So yeah, when we got married, I was still working these same hours. I'll let Kim talk about her job she got, but I worked long hours. I came home late. When I came home, I was trashed, and get up and do it again the next day. And really the only time we saw each other was the weekend. We're living in New Jersey. We're on the outskirts of New York City. So the population of our little town in Ridgewood was more people in New Mexico, where she grew up, the whole state. Like, it's a contrast of culture. And it was just such a shock, I think, to our system. But the work was definitely hard. And then go ahead.
Yeah, so I think exactly what Rusty said. I mean, for me, growing up in New Mexico and moving to New Jersey was a major culture shock for me. My first job was working in New York City. So I majored in exercise physiology, and I got a job working as a personal trainer for Morgan Stanley investment bankers. So I was working in the Exxon building in Midtown Manhattan, around the Rockefeller Center area. So I was commuting into work, from New Jersey. I had to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning. So my days started super, super early. His ended super late. And I think our whole lifestyle, I mean, we were just so ungodly in so many different areas of our life. I mean, yeah, we were partying, Rusty loved smoking pot, and we were drinking. And, we just started fighting and arguing a lot. Like, I was really unhappy because I just felt all alone. Like, I never saw Rusty. I'm in this strange, part of the world. And, even at work, people would call me Kimmy Bob, because, like, I'm just so not New York City. Like, I was just kind of this novelty girl, like, from the Southwest. And, I don't know, it was just such a different lifestyle. And I think we just had no clue what it meant to be married, for one, and just, working together was just really challenging. And I just wanted to go back home. We weren't connecting. And at that point, when John Price called Rusty, we were really considering divorce.
Wow.
After 1 year.
How did things change after you became Christians?
So it is just ironic looking back and just seeing how God allowed us to get to a point of brokenness. Like, I really needed to be broken to listen to God. Like, I'm just not the guy who just reads the Bible because I'm just that smart. Like, I need to be broken first. And so we definitely were broken. I took full responsibility of getting our marriage to that point. And so I think that really is probably why I responded quicker than Kim. But just the irony of when John called, because John didn't have any idea that our marriage was like this. And on the surface, everybody looked at our life and went, he's the design guy that won the contest.
Right.
She's got a great job with Morgan Stanley. We look like the ultimate couple that everybody wants to be, but behind closed doors, we were a mess.
Especially in the 80s and 90s. I mean, Japanese companies were just dominating, buying up so much real estate. I mean, that was just huge. Yeah. Rusty, it's so funny you mentioned that about the drinking, because when we moved to Japan in the early 90s, some of my clearest memories are guys, my neighbors, staggering home at 10, 11 at night, literally staggering down the alleys and streets trying to get home. I mean, just that was part of your work. I mean, so you just don't miss that. So anyway, back to it.
Yeah, and it wasn't uncommon in the meetings the next day for your coworkers to be kind of hungover and passed out during the meeting. And at first I'm like, hey, you should probably wake what's his head up? And he's like, no, he had a hard night. Like, kind of like it's a trophy. He had a hard night. He took one for the company. Like, wow, this is messed up. So yeah, I think when we became disciples, I remember the very first time I got baptized, and I came to work, same time I always do, but at 6 o'clock, I shut my computer off, shut my work. And I told my Japanese boss, I said, I'm going to go home. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I said, no, I'm going to start going home at about 6 p.m. and I'm going to have dinner with my wife every night. And he put his finger in my face and said, you can see your wife on the weekends. You will stay here with the rest of us. And I said, you can see your wife on the weekends. I'm going to start seeing my wife every night. And he put his finger back in my face and he's like, get out of here. We don't want you. Get out of here. You need to quit. And I said, I'm not going to quit. I love my job. I love designing, but I've changed my life. I'm a Christian. I just got baptized and I'm going to start trying to live like a Christian and design. So wow. I'm not going to become a worse designer. I'm just not going to come out with you at night and get trashed. I'm going to start, I got a lot of work to do with my marriage and I'm going to start working on my marriage. And they really shunned me from that point. Like all the good projects, I didn't get any of those. I got the projects nobody wanted. They'd go out to lunch. They wouldn't ask me to go to lunch anymore. Meetings, they'd have meetings and not ask me to come to the meeting. I was just pretty much ostracized. And that was okay. But I knew that, eventually we need to move on and it was kind of a toxic environment. It was just about my Christianity. It wasn't really about my design work. But it changed everything. It changed. I mean, I really did a 180 and it was scary. It was really, really scary because I really did think I was going to get fired, but I didn't. So.
How much longer did you stay with Sony?
I think 2 more years after that. I stayed for 2 years and then we went to Knoxville to be part of a church planting. So okay. that was a big contrast as well from the New York, once a month being able to meet in the New York church down at Jacob Javits Center with 5,000 people to go to Knoxville, Tennessee with 21 people to plant a church.
Wow.
We're like, whoa, what did we do? And then I got a job with Rubbermaid down there designing products for Rubbermaid. That's what took us to that. And then, the church planting, they kind of worked out hand in hand. So.
Okay. So Kim, how did you see things change after you both became Christians?
Yeah, I think for both of us, we made some pretty drastic changes, in our lifestyle. And I think the fact that we had so many people helping us, giving us advice and just walking with us in our marriage was so super helpful. It did take a long time really to kind of heal from like the wounds that we had, that we had given each other. And actually I feel like for both of us, a major turning point, like in the healing of our marriage was when we went to Knoxville, Tennessee. Bill and Amanda Burke were leading the church at that time, and they came to us and said, hey, we want you to lead a marriage workshop for all the marrieds in the church. And we're like, what? Are you crazy? This is like the worst idea ever. And they said, no, I think you can do it. And, you know, so for Rusty and I, when we were put in that role of actually like having to lead other people in our marriage, it just helped us so much to connect and to grow together, and to feel like, yeah, we're not a great example, but we are here with you, and we're learning and growing together. So, yeah, I think just, you know, obviously we changed a lot of the outward, outward sins. You know, we quit drinking. We quit partying. We gave up a lot of things like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, God just kind of transformed us, like Rusty said, from the inside out. We did a 180. We even named our firstborn son Brody, to kind of symbolize like our
180.
Yeah, our 180 in life. So
that's what they call it. So that's where we learned that term is in Arizona. When you flip your car around and go the other direction, it's to do a Brody.
Do a Brody.
And we were like, let's name him Brody. That's what we did. That's why we called him Brody.
Oh my gosh. Now, does your son know that's how he got his name?
He does. Yeah.
That is hilarious. Oh my gosh. Okay. Woo. All right. So first of all, that took a lot of guts. Oh my gosh. In a Japanese culture, I mean, that Japanese culture is so strong. For you to buck the system and decide not to do that, that takes a ton of courage. Way to go. That's amazing. I think only a person being in that culture could really understand that, how incredibly pervasive that is. But you did it. That's amazing. Okay, so give us the fast forward. Where have you guys been since you went to Knoxville, Tennessee? That's what, 91, 92, 93?
93 through 96.
Okay, can you just kind of give an overview of where you've gone, where you've worked, what you guys have done up until the present time?
Okay. Yeah. So it was kind of cool. We kind of stumbled on the Knoxville, Tennessee thing. I mean, we're clear up in New Jersey. Most of the people planting that church in Knoxville were from Nashville. But I had an offer from Rubbermaid in Knoxville, but we didn't know if there's a church there. So somebody said at the Jacob Javits service, Steve Johnson was preaching. They said, ask Steve Johnson, like he's in charge of this planting. He'll know if there's a church there. So, you know, back in those days, there was a line of people waiting to tell the preacher how awesome he did. So I'm standing in that stupid line for 25 minutes with Kim. And we finally get up there and we talked to Steve like, hey, I got a job offer designing down in Knoxville, Tennessee, but is there a church? We don't know if there's a church there. And he's asking us a lot of questions like, how's your marriage? How long have you been disciples? And we're like, okay, yeah, but is there a church there? And he's like, there is going to be, but we need some people. And I want you to be on the team of people planting the church. I'm like, are you sure? Like, isn't there like an interview or something? Like, and he's like, you were just interviewed and I want you to be on the team. So like, oh my gosh, that was scary. But we did that. We talked to him. He let us know there was a church. So we got down there. That was awesome. We were there for 3 years. We just had a great time. Wow, we grew so much. I think just the contrast of going from, the Ridgewood Church in New Jersey, Sharon and Debbie Wright's church has probably 250 people. So we kind of got to see a mid-size and be part of a mid-size. But once a month, we went to Jacob Javits and saw 5,000 people together. And then now we were part of this 21 people thing. So I just felt like we just kind of went through a conversion when we went down there, like not a dark to light kind of conversion, but like you become somebody different than you haven't been before. You have to. And we just learned so much. That was a great experience. We were there for 3 years. And then Rubbermaid actually sold to a competitor. That brought us up. I started designing toys for Little Tykes up in Cleveland, Ohio. And we were in Cleveland for 25 years. That's where we've been the last 25 years before we went to Toledo. Designed toys for Little Tykes for a while, and then I jumped onto this little housewares company called Enter Design for 25 years. And we raised 4 kids. That's really where, our kids grew up, and they think of their hometown as we were in a little town called Chagrin Falls in the Cleveland vicinity. And that's the hometown. So.
Okay. So you were in Cleveland from 96 to 2017?
To 2021. Yep.
Okay. So 2000 to 2021. That's when you moved.
Yep.
When did you?
From 96, we moved in 96 to 2021. We were in Cleveland, 25 years.
25 years. Okay. My numbering,
Yep.
not good. Okay. Now I took a motorcycle trip through Cleveland. I had a lot of bad, people had made comments about Cleveland, and I stayed at the Steiners this last summer in Cleveland, kind of near the Lake Erie. I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. I'm like, whoa, I want to move here and buy one of these huge brick houses here. They're just amazing. It's like, this is living. I don't know where you guys were living, but I was pleasantly surprised at how beautiful it was.
I think we felt the same way. First of all, we feel the same way about the Steiners. Like, they're amazing friends, amazing people. They're on the west side of Cleveland, which is different than the east side. It's just the older part of town. East side is more the universities, a little younger, newer part of town. But both, I think we felt the same way when we were in Knoxville, telling people in Tennessee that we were getting transferred up to Cleveland. They were like, "Oh man, what did you do to make God mad?" That's very unfortunate.
Well, this is funny too, because at the time, Rusty was weighing his options about whether he wanted to accept the transfer to Cleveland. And we were just trying to figure out how can we stay in Knoxville, because we just loved Knoxville. We loved the church. I mean, it was such a great experience for both of us. And Rusty said, "I would rather pump gas in Knoxville, Tennessee than ever move to Cleveland, Ohio." And, it's just funny that, God was like, "Okay."
I think God said, "Okay, it's your option." So, yeah.
But yeah, Chagrin Falls, if you've never been there, is a beautiful, beautiful town. It's iconic. Yeah, we loved it. It was a great place to raise kids.
Okay. Chagrin Falls, Chagrin.
Yep.
Okay. Looks nice. Got a nice little downtown area. So you did that. You worked for Little Tykes, and then you worked for another company?
Worked for a housewares company called Enter Design. We design things for like Bed Bath & Beyond, Crate and Barrel, Container Store. So all those things, our goal was all those things that your wife is buying when you're at work. So that was kind of how we looked at it. And a lot of the stuff, what we wanted it to be impulsive. Like, you didn't actually go into the store to buy that, but when you saw it, you're like, "Oh my gosh, that is the coolest thing." That was the goal. That was our customer, and that was our mentality. That was a lot of fun. It paid the bills. Had a great job, great relationship with. It was a privately held company, so it's a pretty small company, and just had a great ride, great fishing pond. It was a really good experience.
And Kim, what were you doing during this time? Were you working or just raising the kids, or?
So yeah, my primary role was raising the kids. So we had our first 2 children in New Jersey, and then our son was born in Knoxville, Tennessee. And then when we moved to Cleveland, I don't know, God really put it on my heart to adopt a girl from China. And so we ended up adopting our youngest daughter, Summer, from China in 2004. So my job really, and my role, and my greatest role in life really was just being a mother and raising the kids. So I did that for many, many years. And then, when they all started going back to school, or when in school full time, I just did a series of different jobs. I was an executive assistant at Cleveland State University. I also worked at the same company that Rusty did, in international sales. The last job I had before moving to Toledo, I was working at a nonprofit company in Chagrin Falls. So yeah, I've just done a variety of things throughout the years.
Wow. Okay. So how did you end up in Toledo? You've got the great situation, great house, nice hometown. And then all of a sudden, what is it that prompts you to go, hey, we want to move to Toledo?
Well, March 2020 came to everybody, including us in Cleveland, and we both actually got let go from our jobs on the same day.
Oh my gosh.
20th, 2020. And
what they laid you off on March 20th? That's right at the beginning of COVID.
Right at the beginning. Yep. Both of us. Her company, we worked for different companies at the time, and her company also let her go the same day I got let go. The fortunate thing was that's the company I'd worked for 25 years, and they gave me a really nice severance package. So it allowed us for, about a year to just step back and go, what do we want to do when we grow up? And it enabled us to pause. And we really needed that. I think I especially needed it. I felt like I was a hamster in a hamster wheel for a long time. And I'm definitely grateful for it. It was a great hamster wheel. But we were ready, I think, for the next chapter, like maybe something more meaningful. And so I applied to, other design jobs. I was actually a design director my last 10 years or so, applied to those. But, you're 57 years old, you're competing against people who are 40, and, they're betting on the horse. And are they going to bet on the old horse or the young horse? And I just know that's a reality, because I actually interviewed a lot of people as well, and kind of, people use the term you're overqualified, and that just means you're too old. We're going to go with the younger horse. And they're not allowed to say you're too old, of course. But I think it was just, at some point, people started one by one, independently of one another. I think Brody and Brooke, our son and his wife, I think we were on vacation. They were like, have you ever thought about going into ministry? You said you wanted to do something meaningful, and there are churches that need leaders. And Ryan and Kareen Painter, who led the Cleveland church, were like, hey, you ever thought about going into ministry, like independently of one another? We're just like, would you guys shut up? Like, why do you think anybody would hire somebody who has no experience in paid ministry? Like, that's crazy. But we, kind of kept it in the back of our minds. And then, I think we talked to Bob and Tricia Shanks, who were leading the Columbus church, and like, is it crazy? Because they used to lead the Toledo church. They're like, okay, we see that Toledo church needs leaders. What do you guys think? Would we be good candidates? Could we do this? And it was just amazing to us that people believed in us. They were like, yes, we do think you would be good at that, right? But they would never hire somebody that doesn't have experience. They're like, you don't know that until you apply. And so, we talked about it, and we were like, we're not qualified for sure, but we feel equipped. And that there's a difference, but we just needed to feel equipped, and we do. We have a Bible, we have a lot of support. And so we just threw our name in the hat and sent them a resume, and I think they called us the next day, and they were like, let's do an interview.
Wow. Okay. So what was the situation that the Toledo church was in? How many people at that time? What was the leadership looking like? What was going on there?
I think for about a year, they did not have leadership. I think so. They were kind of leaderless for a year. Just a great group of people with about 50 members. And So they just had a strong group of people that were there that stayed in the church. They were strong and they were hanging in there. So when we got there, they were just so grateful and so loving and so like, we made it clear in the interview. There were a lot of, I don't know how many people interviewed us. It was a Zoom call. Doug and Jennifer Lambert were on there and they supported us for some reason. And just all these people, I mean, they called us back in like a day after the interview and just like, we want to hire you. And we were blown away. Like, why would you want to hire us? Like, did we tell you that we don't have any experience? Didn't we say that? Anyway, it was just, so we did it. We sold our house in Chagrin Falls. We bought a house in Toledo. We started leading remotely for a month and then we moved here. And they're just such an amazing little family. And they're so warm, so grateful, so generous. We're super glad to be here. Super glad.
Okay, Kim, what was going through your mind? Were you the driver for this decision, or was it Rusty, or was it both of you? Like, I just can't imagine what you were thinking. Here you guys are in your 50s, you're making a major shift from what is known, what you've been doing for 30 plus years, to all of a sudden something you've never done before that is inherently challenging. Tell me what was going on inside?
Well, gosh, I would say like a lot of different emotions. And, I feel like from the time that we both got laid off from our jobs or let go from our jobs, like Rusty said, we really had about a year of, we went on these amazing hikes. We lived across the street from a metro park, a beautiful, beautiful metro park. So we would walk in the metro park every day. I mean, we'd talk, we'd dream, we'd cry, there's so many ups and downs throughout that whole experience. But I think the thing that, both of us really felt, I don't think it was one person over the other, but we did just feel like, we have more to give. Like, we're not ready to be written off, like, and just head out into the sunset and just, we did have an opportunity for a new chapter. Like, the sky was blue. We could kind of really do whatever we wanted to. And I think it really was kind of the Spirit nudging us, prompting us, through different people, and just putting it on our heart to say, you know what, you guys can do this. You would be, God has given you so much. And I think just having people believe in us was really the driving force, that we felt like, yeah, everybody that we talked to had so much faith, and just knowing that, yeah, you might not have ever been full-time in the ministry, but I think God certainly can help you, and you have an amazing support system behind you. And I think if it wasn't for that, then yeah, for sure, I think we would both have been like, no, we can't do this. But I think because we knew, being a part of the amazing Ohio Valley region, part of the ACR, I mean, we've had so much support in going into this role. Like, we don't feel like we're doing it alone. We feel like God has just set us up for success.
Wow. Okay. So how are you guys doing financially? Were you at that point ready to retire, so you didn't need any money? So you're like, hey, we can just do this? Or how did you work that out financially?
So I think we're kind of at probably that questionable point where we probably need a little more before we're able to retire. And this just seemed perfect. Like it is that job where we wake up, like, I want to have a purpose. Like, I want to wake up and have something meaningful to wake up for, purposeful. And this was perfect. And yeah, we're not ready to retire yet, both like just mentally and physically. Like I kind of feel like the widow in 2 Kings 4 with Elisha, like she's got a little, all she said is, I got a little oil left. And you just watch what God does with a little oil. Like
Wow.
it just keeps running. As long as they keep bringing jars, it just keeps running. And it's how God works. Like God takes a little and he does a lot with it. And I think Kim and I felt the same, like we have a little left. And like watch God do a lot with it. Like, and he's done a lot for us. Like we've changed since we've been here. Like we thought we were coming for Toledo. This is really going to help them. It's going to benefit them, but it really has benefited us way more than it has Toledo. The same when we adopted our daughter, same way. We kind of felt like we're gonna benefit this little girl. We're gonna give her a family. And it was us that benefited more than her. Like our family, our 3 other kids and us, we are a better family because of that little girl. She benefited us way more than we benefited her.
Wow.
This feels the same way. Like we've been through a conversion. We came over to just 2 hours away. It's not that impressive. It's like a little Cleveland. It's different from like Kelsey and Jelaine Hahn. They went to China, for crying out loud,
Right.
and learned a new language.
Right.
We didn't have to learn a new language. We just went 2 hours to the west.
Yeah.
Not that big of a deal, but I think what God has done with it is amazing.
Okay, so you had a 16-year-old at the time, Summer. What did she think, and what did your kids think about this crazy move?
Well, so I think it was probably the most challenging for Summer because she was getting ready to graduate from high school. She's at Ohio State right now, but for her to have to leave her hometown and her friends, yeah, it was an emotional time for her. Just adjusting to the fact that, yeah, we're not going to be in her little hometown around her friends. But I think even despite that, she was really excited for us. And of course, Brody and Brooke, they're in the full-time ministry in Columbus, Ohio. They lead the Ohio State campus for the Columbus Church. They were super, super supportive and excited about this move. We have another daughter who's married in Columbus. And, they were really hoping that we would move a little bit closer to them to be in Columbus. So I think that was hard, at first for them not to feel a little disappointed that we weren't making that transition to Columbus. And then this actually is kind of cool because our youngest son, Mesa, he actually 3 years ago went to China for a 1-year challenge and ended up staying 3 years. So he was with Kelsey and Jelaine Han in China. And when we told him that we were, taking this position, this role with the Toledo Church, he made a decision to come back from China and come and help us with the Toledo Church.
Wow. Okay, so you've got 4 kids. Let's see, Brody, Mesa,
Brody, Tatum,
Tatum,
Mesa, and Summer.
Okay, great. Okay, so Brody and his wife, they lead the campus ministry at Ohio State.
Yes.
And your daughter Summer is going to school there. That's a nice little, all in the family kind of a situation. That's awesome. And then so Mesa joined you guys. I'm assuming you named Mesa after your time in the Southwest. Is that right?
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Okay. I really appreciate your naming systems. That's pretty interesting. Now let's talk about your time in Toledo. You're going from a very structured situation to, unstructured. Your time is your own, going into the paid ministry. What did you find most challenging? Tell me about that transition period, the first 3 months. What was different? What did you notice? What was going on?
I can start. Yeah, I think for sure, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like we've gone through a conversion. First, I feel very fortunate that we're leading at this time. we don't know anything else but leading during COVID. Like we started during COVID, so we didn't lead before that. So we don't know if this is harder or easier. We just know that we have a lot of support. I don't know if we could have led 30 years ago. Like I don't know if we can, crank the ministry and baptize as frequently as the expectation then. But I think we showed up here and we just want to have a healthy spiritual garden. We just want to create this healthy spiritual garden. And that's kind of been our mentality as we come in. So, and the church, like I said, couldn't be more receptive. I think they needed to kind of heal from some cultural stuff, some experience in the past and whatever. So it's just been it's great for us to kind of, it was really difficult to learn to preach every week, and definitely appreciate the Preach With Us, the Climb conference. That's one of the big turnarounds for me, like the Climb conference that you had. And this isn't just to put a plug in for you or for this conference, but Joel Nagel and you guys who have helped the small church leaders to learn. I mean, this is just such an amazing support to teach us how to preach. That has made such a big difference. And Ed and Deb Anton, we have Centurion meetings and stuff where they teach and help the churches with less than 100 people. Like here's some help, here's some guidance, some direction, and that just helps so much. And even the Ohio Valley region churches, Doug and Jennifer Lambert, and all the churches here in the Ohio Valley region, they're so unified and helping each other. So we don't feel like we're on our own doing this. Like we have no idea we have so many people supporting us. I mean, people like you guys, so far away. Tucson's not even close to Cleveland, but right. We get help from you guys. Like it's really, really been amazing.
That's great.
But I think back to your question, you could talk about marriage. Our marriage was one of the things that really was the most difficult.
Kim, what have you found most challenging?
Well, I think by far the thing that has been the most difficult part of doing this new role together is actually being together every day, day in and day out. Rusty's career before, he did a lot of traveling. So he traveled to China quite a bit. He traveled internationally quite a bit. So he would be gone, at 2-week stretches. These were not little overnight trips that he was going on. And I think, for both of us just working, different careers and on different paths, like it was just nice, like, we were not together during the day, and then to come home at night and be able to share about our day and what's going on, in our lives. But now when we're together all the time, we're just trying to figure out, like, how, we're swimming in each other's lanes, like all the time. And we're just trying to figure out how to give each other space, but be in sync at the same time, be one in mind and spirit, and just working on leading together instead of leading apart. Mm-hmm. So by far, I think, the church really has been incredible. I think the disciples here in Toledo are the most generous, warm-hearted, giving people that we've ever met. And they have certainly opened up their arms, or welcomed us with open arms to the church. And they're just so willing to let us try new and different things. And, we feel super, super blessed that, we just have this great group of people to walk, in a relationship with God with.
So what's been most rewarding for you? How have you seen God work since you came there a year ago? Is that right?
Yeah, we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary here. I think really just seeing the people here heal, just seeing that process, seeing people become really happy, just happy to be Christians. We've seen some people restored here. We've seen some baptisms since we've been here. we're learning, how to lead. Like we've never really had this role before. So as we're growing, I think the church is also growing, and we're kind of growing together. And it's kind of how Kim and I lead, is like, we'll walk with you. Let's follow Jesus together. Let's do this together. And it's been really amazing. And like Kim said, I think it's rewarding to see our marriage go to a different level. Like I thought we had a great marriage, but when you're waking up every day, working in the same house as each other every day, stepping on each other's toes every day, marriage is different than it was. That takes a different level of unity than we've ever had to do. So we kind of had to go through our little conversion, so to speak, with that as well. We've really grown a lot in our marriage. We've never prayed as much together as we do now, not even close. We beg God on our knees together almost, weekly, because we've never really had to pray at that level before and beg God for stuff. It's been healthy for us as well as a church.
Okay, so I'm interested in knowing what practically, you mentioned prayer, what practically have you done to kind of step into this new role, totally different in terms of your scheduling, you're working out of your home, of course, as many people are doing with COVID, but the role as a minister, you do have more control over your time, although fewer boundaries on your time. How have you managed, what have you done to give yourself structure and to handle the anxiety in that change?
So yeah, I've never really had the opportunity to wake up and have like 4-hour quiet times. Like it's kind of cool. Like Kim has kind of given me this one room. It's my room, the office, and she takes the dining room table, and we just kind of go to our own rooms, and we have quiet times. We have discipling times, but kind of have our own time in our own room with God, and learn about stuff together. And then we'll come together if we hear something or study something, or we're putting something together. We'll get together afterward, but we give each other that time in our own rooms. And it's just kind of cool to be able to wake up. I'd like coming from the world, working for a secular world where you are divided. Two kingdoms are pulling on you all the time. Your work, if you want to keep your job and you want to, advance and all that and manage people, it's kind of a kingdom. It's a tough role. So it is kind of nice to be able to step out of that and just go, all I got to do is focus on God. Mm-hmm. All I have to do is wake up, study my Bible, figure out what's going to help people who are still in the secular world, how I can help them to make sure that they're devoted to God, because they have to go to work also, and they're going to be pulled by their bosses and all that to serve that kingdom. How can I help them? That is just such a cool role, to be on the other side of the train tracks going, I know what it's like to be over there. I'm gonna do my best to help you.
It must help people who are listening to you to know that you've spent three or more decades in secular positions, to listen to that and go, okay, this guy knows where I'm at. He understands my situation. Do people express their appreciation?
They do. Yeah. I think it gives us a certain street cred to come from that background, and then to preach on that, where we can empathize what you're going through. And, coming into a midweek and having, you arrive a little bit late and people are looking at you like, seriously, you're late? Well, you just made the people mad at work that you left early from work to get to this midweek.
Right.
I know what that feels like, to disappoint the people at work for leaving early, to disappoint the people at church for being late.
Right.
And that's your life. Like, that's how, you live every day. And I'm just glad you're here at midweek. I know however you arrived here, it wasn't easy. So thank you for being here. Let's see if we can worship God together tonight on a Wednesday. And yeah.
Well, there's got to be difficult times too. I mean, we're coming through a massive pandemic, and plus you guys are doing something you've never done before. What drives you through difficult times? What's your why?
Well, I guess I can start with that. I think for me, I was just thinking about this. There's a scripture in Hebrews 13 that says, God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. And so we say with confidence, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. And I think just knowing, I think that's the beauty of being just more mature in our faith and in our Christianity, is that we've seen God work like over and over and over again in our lives. We've seen God do amazing things, and just to know that God is with us every step of the way. He's not going to leave us or forsake us, even during the challenging times. I can say with confidence, the Lord is my helper. I don't have to do this alone. We don't have to do this alone. God is there fighting with us. And just, I think, believing that, God has our best interests in mind. He has the best interests of the disciples here in Toledo. We just want to be God's tool, God's instrument, and just be used by him in whatever way that ends up being.
I saw a quote recently in this book I'm reading. Somebody quoted, I think it was something Randy McKean said, but the quote said, "We have not come this far to only come this far." and I kind of feel that way. Like, life has been awesome. God has laid his boundaries in pleasant places for Kim and Rusty Snell. And it's not so much when I think about your question of why, it's kind of more like, why not? Like, why wouldn't I do this for God? He has done that for me. He saved our marriage. He gave us 4 amazing kids. He put us in churches that we had best friends supporting us for years and years. Like, I'm living the American dream. Like, there's nobody that I'd rather be than me.
Wow. And
it's not because I'm awesome. I just about screwed everything up 32 years ago, and he reached in and saved us. Why wouldn't I do this for God? Is a better question. Not why would I, but why wouldn't I? Like, it'd be crazy not to. And I think each of us, we have to ask ourselves, what is our next chapter in trusting God? I don't care who we are, how long we've been disciples. What is your next chapter? And not everybody has to plant a church or lead a church or do something that radical. But how do you trust God today? What's your next chapter in trusting God? I think we all have to ask ourselves that. Because in the end, like, no matter how hard or easy it is, the happiest I am is when I'm participating with Jesus in his victories and his suffering. It all goes together. That's my happiest. It's not just when things are going really well. It's when things are tough. It's when there's a little bit of suffering and pain. That's when life is the most meaningful. So, I want to participate with him. I want him to say, I know you.
Wow, that is awesome. I really want to talk to you guys because I feel like there are so many people who are gifted, talented like you, who have so much to give and so much life left to give, that it could literally change the trajectory of our kingdom if we had more people doing what you're doing. I mean, there's so many places to plant, so many places to lead that are in need of leadership. What advice would you give to those who might be on the fence, thinking, man, maybe I could do something. Gosh, maybe we could do something. Any help that you might offer that person?
Well, for me, I think that, you don't actually have to lead a church or be full-time in the ministry to make an impact. There are so many ways that you can give and use your talents for God. But really, I think throughout our whole life, just the decisions that we've made, like to go to Knoxville, Tennessee, to plant a church, to adopt our daughter, to come here to Toledo, a lot of it was really just the Spirit God's Holy Spirit giving us nudges and prompts, and for us to really just listening to God, and looking for the needs around you. And I think, we just have to use our oil. We have to use what we have, and we have to give all that we have to God with all of our heart.
Mm.
I remember this quote. I don't even know who the woman was. It was clear back in like 98 or 99. And it happened to be in Toledo. We were living in Cleveland. And this woman, I think she called herself like the Red Tornado or something like that. She had red hair, and she said, my nickname is, I think she said Red Tornado. And it was about adopting, and definitely it hit a nerve with us. But the thing that she said, and I still can't forget it, she said, "If not you, then who?" And it really just made me, at that point, we were sitting in the auditorium and listening about adopting. And I think it was one of the things that stuck then. But it's also when the Toledo church had an opening and said, we need leaders. I asked myself, if not me, then who? Who's better suited? Who's better equipped than you to lead that? I don't know. I'm sure there are a lot of people, but it made me just go, why not me? Like, wow. Why not? And so I do think it's never, in a sense, it's never been easier to lead a church. I just believe that because of podcasts like this. Like, you've inspired me with Make This Life Count. As simple as that little slogan is, it made me go, that was one of the things that made me go, is this going to make my life count more to do something like this? Heck yes. Like, wow, this is going to be a big deal for me and for this church. But I want to make this life count. I want to be like that stinking t-shirt that you loved wearing, and it got old and thin, and your wife makes you stop wearing it because you can see through it. You can see your nipples through it. And so you have to stop wearing it, but you still don't want to throw it away. So you wash the car with it, and then it's just hanging there and there's hardly anything left. I want to be that t-shirt. When it's time for me to die, I want God to say, I used this t-shirt as far as it can be used. That's what I want to be.
That is so awesome. Okay. Well, we've covered a lot of ground here today, but is there anything I've missed? Is there anything else that maybe most people wouldn't know about you that we didn't cover?
Grandparents.
Yes. I know we don't look like we could be grandparents, but we are the proud grandparents of 5 grandchildren.
Oh my gosh.
All under the age of 4.
Wow.
No, I don't think you've missed anything. We are bicyclers. We love road biking. We do it together. We're out doing miles and miles on the streets. We even went to California, rode from LA to San Diego a couple years ago. But by and large, I think you've covered it. There's more information there than anybody would want to know, I'm sure.
Well, thank you guys so much. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you guys, and I'm inspired by your life and your decision to live for God. So thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
We're inspired by this podcast. Keep doing what you're doing, Rob.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining the Rob Skinner podcast. If you're enjoying this podcast, please hit the subscribe button and let your friends know about it and how to find it. Because my goal is to inspire you to make this life count, live a no regrets life, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Have a great day and make this life count.